1.
Good morning, everyone. This is Councilman Michael Holmes calling to order the May 21st session of the Transparency, Engagement, and Communication Committee. With me in chambers is all the members of the committee, Councilman Dr. Patrick Harmon, Mayor Pro Tem Britt Moore, and Councilwoman Amanda Cook. We have a few items on the agenda today. We'll start with item 2025-207, advanced metering infrastructure presentation, and Jeremy Coble, our customer service director, will be presenting. And while we're setting up that the presentation, we also have our clerk and our Madam Attorney is joining us via Zoom. So those are all the folks who are participating today. She snuck in.
Want to do roll call?
Yeah, I think we need to get everybody on the record here. Madam Manager snuck in under the radar. Please, Jeremy.
Well, good morning.
Morning.
Hope everybody's doing well. Before I start into the PowerPoint, I'm going to go off script here, and I have a vision statement for this project that hangs on my wall. And I need to often remind myself of it, and I thought it would be good to share in this group because I think it really spells out what we're trying to accomplish. So I'll read it and then go into the slides. At High Point, we have established a rich legacy defined by quality, innovation, and a dedication to the community. We are steadfast in our commitment to uphold and extend this legacy. Our foremost objective is to modernize our utilities, ensuring a safe and sustainable environment while fostering economic growth and prosperity through responsible resource management. We recognize that we do not merely inherit our community from previous generations, rather we are temporary stewards entrusted with the well-being of future generations. Let us take pride in the enduring legacy we create.
That's beautiful, man.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. So let's talk about AMI. What is AMI? I think it's fitting that we're in this meeting today. AMI is communications. It's a two-way communication between our utility system, our customers, and us. Here's what it really is.
You going to explain all this to us?
Now, there's a pop quiz at the end of this slideshow on all these items here. This is really what AMI is, and these are our communication points with existing systems, new systems, or upcoming systems. I only bring this slide up to show what we have been working on thus far and what we will continue to improve upon. Promise, no real questions on this. So let's talk about customer benefits. One is transparency, which is why we're here today. We want to know how we can improve our systems, and our customers want to know what water and utilities they're using. This allows them to make better choices for themselves, for their family members. They can do this for monetary reasons, they can do this for environmental reasons, etc. We will now have access to online tools. Currently, we have a payment portal. It works great. In the future, in the very near future, we will have a portal with much more robust information. As AMI rolls out, our customers will have access to real-time data. Every hour, they will be able to see what their electric usage is and what their water usage is. And this will come into play a little bit more as I talk about the portal, but this will allow them to do a lot of things to help themselves. One thing that I'm very excited about is the timely leak and outage detection. We deal with a lot of water leaks. In fact, I've even dealt with some folks here in this room on this very topic. A lot of times the customer and us, we don't know that the water's leaking until a bill that looks abnormal comes into play. This will allow us to proactively see where some of these leaks are occurring. We can notify the customer. This helps save the city money and the customer money. Other cities that have done this have seen huge drops in their accounts receivable just by this system alone. The Watergy and energy conservation. This is going to put the power in the customer's hands. They can make decisions based on their preferences. They can set thresholds. This will allow the city to also utilize our water better. If we see that water's leaking out somewhere or something abnormal is happening, we can address this before maybe we're hearing about it from a phone call on a customer, or we're riding down the road and see a main break. The timely and accurate meter reading. Now, I will say, I think we do an excellent job at our current processes for meter reading. We do very, very well at accuracy. This will enhance that even further. And then having those hourly reads gives you just so much more information around that. Just an overall better customer experience, and I'll talk about how we're going to use that on our side. How I'm seeing the future of not only the AMI, but what it's going to do to customer service is we're going to be less reactive and more proactive. Just based on the information that we have right now, we fix things as they come up. We're hoping to fix things before the customer even knows, and that's real customer service in my opinion. So from our side of things, what is this going to do? You call into the call center, you have questions about your usage. Our current status, we can look at your water or electric usage one time a month. We're at a guessing game, truly. A lot of times our customers will ask, what happened? How did I use this much water? Why was my power bill so high right then? We really don't know. We have very limited insight into that. In the future, not only will the customer have this information, but our staff will have this information, and we can be on the phone with the customer and look at the same screen at the same time. And so a great example of this is, okay, on Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock, I can see where things spiked and went down. Maybe we had a barbecue. A really funny story that was a real story is a lady was very upset this is another utility, very upset because she couldn't figure out why her power bill was so high. It just boggled her mind. Once AMI came into play, she figured out that every day when her kid came home from school, they took the thermostat and did this, and right before she came home, they did that. And they could see the spike in energy. Certainly from our perspective, we only saw the spike in energy, but that gave them enough information to move forward and try to investigate. So that's, very interesting. We want to improve that first contact resolution. Again, when customers call in, we may or may not know everything. We give them the best information we have. I think we're going to be much more able to resolve their issue. Tailored alerts by the customer. This is exciting. So not only will we send leak alerts based on our thresholds that we set, but the customer can do this as well. And they can do this for electric and water. They can go into the portal. They can say, when I get to X number, please notify me so that I can maybe pull back. Mm-hmm. And this allows somebody from getting a large bill at the end of the month, they can manage that as we go forth. And within that portal, there'll be some how-tos and informational things that also, give them information on how to proceed with that. The automated cut-on and cut-offs. So what am I referencing here? We do have to terminate utilities at times based on non-pay or for some other reasons. Right now, that is a manual process. A person gets in the truck, drives to that location, they go up to that home, they pull the meter out or cut the meter off at the street, and then do that opposite if we need to reconnect. There's a lot of dangers and things that come into that. Just pulling the meter out itself is dangerous. We wear PPE, we follow all the safety precautions, but nothing's perfect. Going into people's backyards sometimes is dangerous. We get chased by dogs. Any number of things. Sometimes we inadvertently startle customers as we enter into their property. And so we hope this will make that process much, much easier and quicker. So if someone has been cut off for some reason, they won't have to wait for a truck to drive from across town to come do it. It will be done programmatically in the computer, and within a very few minutes, that electric meter will come back on. If the water meter is cut off, we will have to do that manually, but that's going to drastically cut down on that workload so we can manage that much more effectively. Customer portal, I'm very excited about this because I think this is where the public will see AMI. I talked about some of that real-time water and electric usage. I think that's going to be critical. The daily and hourly consumption graphs, these are really, really neat. You can do a lot of things with these. They have weather overlays, which is very important. That is very often the reason for a high bill, both in winter and summer as those temperatures go. We have a lot of questions on, it's really high this January. What was my bill last January? In these graphs, you can have year-by-year comparisons and overlay that. For our more tech-savvy individuals, they can populate this into a CSV file. They can take this data and crunch it down even further. And then I mentioned the high usage alerts and leaks. That is really going to be a cost-saving measure for the city and customers. We deal with some type of a leak scenario very, very often. Text communications, and some of this is live and ongoing. Who here is a registered text user? You may be, and I see some head shaking, yes. So we have 35,851 current people signed up for text messages. And signed up is we did a rollout of text messaging for everyone that has electric and water usage thus far. Apologies, if you're a water-only customer right now, we are still getting that set up. You were signed up. We had very few people opt out. We've had great success with it so far. This system is already, if we have a power outage due to a storm or something, and we've had a few of those, it sends the customer a nice text message. We believe you may be out of power. Once it's restored, you get another one. If you've been in other utilities, you may have seen this. Very, very nice. You can also text that I have an outage. You can just text out, and then it will notify our system, and that goes all the way to the electric department, so they know exactly this location is out of power. And then, of course, they can use increased data and others that have said, okay, now we can isolate this issue. The text inquiry about balance and due date. So our call center takes about 20,000 calls a month. Our number one call is how much do I owe and when is it due? This is something we're going to really start marketing. This works great. We just kind of launched this, but we're hoping that will take some pressure off of the call center and they can start tying into that proactiveness that I've talked about. As we start rolling out these increased information, our conversations with the customer may be more lengthy. They may be more in depth. That's what we want. We want to provide as much information as we can. So some of the little items, if folks can use the text message, that would be wonderful. It'll tell them exactly what they owe and when it's owed. And other information regarding city services, we will look at expanding on how we utilize this technology more around this utility sphere. A good example of something we've kicked around is there is a water main break, so we can notify somebody in a geographic location. The abilities with this program is we don't have to send a blanket text to everyone. We can draw a circle on the map and send it to just these people. Very, very nice, very nice. So the possibilities here are endless. Our customer base tells us text messaging communication is where they want to see it. I can't argue that. That's how I receive information. I always have the running joke is I get at least 3 text messages from CVS a day. I only have 2 prescriptions, but.
Right.
So while the presentation is pretty short, I will give you kind of an update on where we are in the project and then, of course, available for any and all questions. So right now we are finalizing, I'll go back. We're finalizing this. We are ensuring every one of these connection points work. We are this close. I will tell you that we had hoped to have all these connection points done 2 or 3 weeks ago. We found areas that weren't correct, And those inconsistencies would have caused incorrect bills to go out to our customers. That's not something that we're okay with. And so we're holding our vendors accountable and ensuring that all these things are fixed before we quote unquote go live. Once these are done, and they will be very soon, we will then roll out in our initial deployment area of approximately 500 customers. This is really an insurance policy. We're going to bill these customers through this process to ensure we don't find anything else that is wrong. We are, of course, going to notify these customers and let them know that they are part of an initial deployment area. And if they see anything on their end, please give us a call. We'll get it corrected right away. From there, then we will start rolling out with the meters, and it'll be the electric meters. We are reutilizing our water meters, very strategic and smart approach to this. And then we will have our vendor come in, and as they replace the electric meter at your house, it will send the computer system through these channels here and let them know, all right, now it's time to turn AMI on at your house. And then you will start to see over time those hourly reads. We will start billing and reading your meter in the new way versus the traditional way, which is going out and about and reading those meters. So that's kind of where we are in the process. The customer portal is right there behind it. Really, we have got all the kinks worked out on that, and so we're ready to roll that out as soon as we kind of get some of these go lives behind us there. But the technology seems to be working really great. We're certainly not the first ones to use this. We are in conversations with some other utilities that have used these exact same software and programs, and really fine-tuning it to make it a wonderful day.
Jeremy, thank you. Does any of the committee members have questions for Jeremy at this time?
I got a few.
Yes, sir.
We've been hearing about this, Councilman Moore. We've been hearing about this for a while. Can you refresh us on how long you've been working on this?
Absolutely. I have been working on it really since the day I walked into the city a little over 3 years ago, and that sounds like a really long time. I will say that as I have got to know these projects, I'm proud of how far we've come in that some other utilities have been working on it a lot longer and not as far as long as us. This is definitely a multi-year project. It is not easy. Just figuring out those connection points is a job in itself, I would say. And part of my proudness, I think, comes from a couple of our consultants have told other utilities to call me or folks on my staff and ask how we're doing it so well. And that's really awesome. And a lot of these are North Carolina cities. In fact, we had I think it was assistant city manager and a director from another city sit in on our weekly technical call. They are going through an AMI project, and they're not making the progress they wanted to. And our consultant said, I think you should join a meeting and see how it's supposed to be done. And I think they're changing course based upon that.
Well, that was very professional of you not to mention their names. Do you know, what's the price tag that we think total? I mean, this is process, sometimes we forget.
Sure. The price tag total, and bear with me because I'll cut that a little bit, is about 20 to 22 million. Now, a large portion of that, over half, is actually the electric meters themselves. It's actually the hardware. And some of these costs, because our electric department, they're not here with us today, but they do a fantastic job. And they have a wonderful meter replacement program. And so they always replace meters as they age out. And so they're really integrating this into their meter replacement program. And so while it certainly is a lot of money, no doubt about it, some of those costs would have been accrued through that meter replacement program.
Right.
I hate to speak for the electric department, but definitely wanted to kind of
makes
put that
sense.
out there. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't ask that as a disparaging
No, absolutely.
mark. It's just that I think people need to know that the types of services that we come to expect every day and appreciate, they cost a lot of money. And but I think the end product of what our city delivers is right up there, top shelf.
Agreed.
One more, or a couple more, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Commercial application versus individual residences. If Blue Ridge Companies is on city water and sewer and they've got 300 units, if one of their units blows a water heater, is that indicated to the individual apartment, or can a commercial entity have access to all their units to help monitor their business?
That's a great question. It may depend on how that is set up at, like, we'll say an apartment building. We use that as a good example. We normally see two different methodologies there. Sometimes we see a master meter, they call them, where the apartment complex is paying all the water for that complex, and then they're utilizing that data, and then they're charging their customers X. And some of it is we see an individual meter for each individual apartment. So there's kind of the two different kinds. How the portal is set up is from an account standpoint. So they would be able to see the meters linked to their personal account. Now, from the commercial application, I'm glad you asked this. So on the back end of this, we will receive approximately 9 million data points a day. With great power comes great responsibility. And what we're going to do is, and in fact, we had an individual start this week. They were an internal High Point staff. They're going to be part of our data analytics team. And our charge is, once we get this up and going, is we want to work directly with our top users. What information do you need, and how can we get it to you? And what's beautiful about some of our software is some of the back-end software that the customer doesn't see that we're using is we can set up automated reports. So if you own ABC apartment complex and you say, hey, I would love to see every week get a report of this breakdown in this methodology, we can work directly with that customer. They can have an Excel file sent to them every week, and nobody has to lift a finger. And that's where we're going to go. So we're going to proactively reach out into the customer base, to these large commercial entities. And we've got some that, of course, already reached out and are very excited about this, to provide them the information that they need.
You mentioned something about if you're only, we have a grid system where Duke, several folks in our
Yes.
city are on Duke. Go back to that point.
Absolutely. So right now, the folks that are on Duke are not part of the text messaging system. So let me explain why. Our text messaging system is actually linked to our outage management system, or Data Voice is the name of it. And that is how we track outages. That's what the electric department uses when we have a storm or crisis, et cetera. And so it is utilizing all the information that it has for its electric customers. What we're working on now is taking our water-only customers, and we will import that into Data Voice from the text messaging standpoint. Now, how this grid AMI system works is the electric meters and the water meters talk to one another. Think of it as a giant spider web of speaking. In our water-only areas, as you pointed out, we are working, we have two utilities that we have, Duke and United Energy, that we have customers with. United Energy, we already have the pole agreements, and we actually have some devices hung on their poles. And so in lieu of the electric meter at their house, there'll be devices on their infrastructure that will read that water meter and send it to us. We are working through our Duke contracts right now. We have about 70 poles to do a contract with Duke. They take a little longer in their paperwork side of things to get done, but all that is submitted to them, and we're waiting for their legal team to kind of sign off on that, and that will be when the water meters in the Duke areas are read. So it does add a little bit of complexity to it, but we've got some workarounds. Now, I will say, there will be a handful of meters. And what's a handful? Our estimate from the propagation study that our AMI team did is about 400 customers. That is to be determined once this network gets up and going. And those are folks that are so far outreached in our ecosystem that it's just physically not advantageous to get that signal back. You'd have to have multiple expensive pieces of hardware to get there. For those customers, for right now, we'll read AMR, or that's how we do it now, with a radio read. It'll be more traditional. Unfortunately, they won't necessarily have those hourly reads. I will say that we've had some interesting conversations with our meter vendors lately. They have meters out now. Some very small utilities are utilizing this as kind of a workaround to AMI, or utilities like ourselves to fill in the gaps. They have water meters with cellular devices on there. Of course, there's more expensive. There's a charge, all that good stuff. But they can send those reads, and then the customer could have more of an advantage of that AMI experience that our others will have.
I got one final question. A lot of houses are built with basements or on a crawl space. Underneath the crawl space is a water heater.
Yes, sir.
You know, if the shower line breaks behind your wall inside the house, you know it. Sometimes the water heater can bust and you don't know it. Is that the type of spike you'll pick up here?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'm done.
Any other questions for Jeremy?
So when do you think it'll be completely rolled out?
And when you say completely rolled out, just so I'm talking the same thing, with all the electric meters installed. So our plan right now is the and we have the electric meters. We have our vendor. They have a warehouse in High Point. They are stocked. They are ready to go, let me tell you. We just got to finish these connection points. That will probably be an 18-month to 20-month deployment period. That's going to start sometime this summer if things go as planned. And so you'll have about 18 to 20 months from this summer. So, somewhere in that time
Okay,
frame.
thank you.
It'll be completely rolled out just in time for AMI 2.0.
Come on now.
Jeremy, is there any plan to introduce any of the software, the portal, to the public, tutorials or anything on best use to the public?
Yeah, absolutely, yes. One thing about this, the software is called Silverblaze. One, it comes right out of the gate with a lot of nice information. What I love about it is you can embed videos right on the front of the portal as soon as somebody logs in. I will say that I've had many conversations internally, just not with Noel yet, that about really making some wonderful how-to videos, utilizing our staff in our city and going out and here's what this looks like. And so very excited about, kind of rolling that out and providing those additional information, addressing the questions we get every day. Let's make a how-to video ourselves that for people that recognize, and we put it out there.
Fantastic.
I just had one more thing. Sorry. This is Councilmember Cook. I, just because people have been asking since I've come on council about how we might be able to integrate solar panels and things like that with this new rollout. So obviously there are other policy changes and things that we'll have to do, but how do you see this working with people who want to use alternative energy sources?
Apologies, I may have to defer that question to the electric department. I'm not an expert on how that works, and so I would hate to speak out of turn on that one. Apologies, I don't know the answer to that, but happy to work with Tyler and maybe get back to you on what that looks like there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Jeremy, thank you. That was incredibly informative presentation, and thank you and your department for all the work that you're doing.
Well, thank y'all for your support.
To modernize our system. All right. If there are no further questions, we'll move on to item 2025-208. And I guess I heard through the grapevine here that Assistant City Manager Eric Olmedo was going to introduce the program. I mean, it wasn't told directly to me, but I have it on good authority.
I apologize, Mr. Chairman. But good morning, and thank you for allowing me to introduce this next item. As you know, our Lead for North Carolina program, this is our inaugural year of participating in that. It is a program to the University of North Carolina School of Government, and we have been blessed to have Carla Huggins as our fellow this year. So I asked her to do a year in review, so you all, the committee, knows what our fellow has been working on this year. But we have been, we are intending to have a fellow for year 2. And that fellow will be housed in Jeremy's department in customer service and working closely with him and his team on their program. So we're hopeful that we will have somebody on board for the second year of the Lead for North Carolina program. So without further ado, I'll introduce Carla Huggins.
Morning, Carla.
Good morning. How are you all?
Doing well.
Noel showed me a switch to lower this podium. I'm going to utilize that now. Like Eric said, thank you for the introduction. This is really a year in review. May is my 10th month here in High Point, so I just wanted to give you all a brief presentation on some of the things I've been working on to give you an idea of the scope, what this program is, and also to set up hopefully a fantastic year next year with customer service. So the program itself, Lead for North Carolina, is a fellowship program that places recent college graduates in local governments across the state for 11-month periods. I'm in cohort 6. I began August 1st. My fellowship runs through June 30th. And the goal here is that we know nationwide and also here in North Carolina that a lot of folks are retiring from local government, and there aren't always those same numbers to step in of young professionals to fill those shoes. And so this program aims to sort of fill in those gaps that might arise and really just meet whatever, we call them host sites, those local governments, meet them wherever they are and whatever needs we can support them in. That's our goal when we come in. And so, as you can see here, this is what the host sites look like on the map for my cohort. There are 38 of us, and each of these host sites differs in the work scope. So fellows might be placed in a specific department. They might be more broadly floating around, sort of lending a hand wherever they can. You'll see High Points on here. It'll be here again on the updated map. And I'll also point out, as you can see, it's all the way out west in Murphy. It goes all the way out east to the coast, where you represent the most populous counties and the most rural counties. Next year, there will also be a higher concentration of host sites in the western portion of North Carolina, as those local governments request fellows to help with Hurricane Helene aftermath and recovery efforts. So again, just really meeting host sites and governments where they are and filling whatever gaps we can. As a fellow, we're also asked to produce certain outputs, and so we're given a few assignments throughout the year to supplement our usual work with our host sites. So the first thing that I completed this year is a listening tour. Each fellow completed this, and we go into the community and speak with different folks in the community about what makes High Point High Point. What are things that they see that are unique about the city? What are maybe some needs they see the city facing? You know, how has it evolved in their time here? Things of that nature. And so that was that first report on the left. And on the right is a report that we presented at a conference in February, where we each selected a project that we were working on in our time. Mine was the supplemental microtransit program that I'll touch on more in just a moment, and just briefing each other on sort of the work we've been doing so far and where we see that going as we move forward. So if I had sat here and really got excited about all the projects I've worked on, we'd be here for quite some time. So in the interest of sparing everyone that and also saving everyone time, I've just highlighted a few of the overarching projects that I've worked on, the first of which is High Point 101, which I actually presented to this committee back in November. That's our Citizens Academy, and I presented to you a lot of what that academy will look like when it launches in the fall. I didn't really talk about, at the time, all the behind the scenes that was going into all the research, compiling all the materials, all the coordination that was going on. So this is really to shed a little bit of light on that, to show you what I was doing sort of behind the scenes there. So in August, when I first arrived in High Point, I began looking at Citizens Academies across the country, and then specifically here in North Carolina. Pictured is the UNC School of Government's resource page for Citizens Academies. I neglected to mention this earlier, but Lead for North Carolina is an AmeriCorps program housed at the UNC School of Government. So they're a great resource for us as we move through our year. And they have a really fantastic page detailing all the different components that you might need to consider for a Citizens Academy. So scheduling, the topics you might want to cover, how long you might want to have it, budgetary costs, things of that nature. And so I began that in August, presented to you all in November, sort of our 8-week model that we have with 13 participating departments. And then in January, I began working with those 13 departments to workshop their sessions. What do they want to cover, right? We know how much work they do on a daily basis. How can you possibly condense that into a 2-hour or sometimes less session? And so going through that and really saying, what do we want to highlight? What do we want folks to walk away with? That's been a really big highlight of this process. And the goal is, of course, for that to go live here in September, later this year, and to have those researching of application materials. What do we include in those? What do we want to hear from participants? What do we need to know that we can then convey? There are just several moving parts to nail down, and so that's been a very long and still continuing process as we move forward. The second thing that I wanted to highlight was our microtransit service that I touched on earlier. This is also called HBTS Go, and that research also began in August. I looked first at nationwide services, even some in Canada, and then narrowed that down more specifically to North Carolina, where some services have replaced fixed route transit entirely. Some are supplemental, like ours here in High Point. There's a question of what do fares look like? What does the equipment look like? We read studies on operation models. Do we contract with third parties? If so, how much do we cover in that contract? Is it how we book the ride? Is it the equipment we use? Is it a software we use? And all of that came together, and I met with leadership and staff from transit and transportation departments who were able to bring their experience and expertise forward to the table in biweekly meetings that we had regularly up until we launched, where they would take all of my pages of research and say, here's what works best for High Point. And that service model was able to go live actually early last month. I was very, very proud to see that launch. And a lot of that information is summarized on our frequently asked questions page in terms of how we decided on policies. How many bags can you bring? How many kids can you bring? What are the kids, what are the delineations around car seat policies and various things? So all of those smaller considerations that go into, I think, making a very successful and smoothly run service. And I was really proud to get to work with that. And the map here is one that Angela Wines created that shows we decided to go with a supplemental service. So it doesn't replace our fixed route transit, but it rather extends that to folks who have less access. We can pick them up at their curb, take them to another place within the zone, or connect them with an existing bus route in order to expand people's opportunities to reach recreational facilities, wherever they might work, things of that nature. This last major high-level overview I want to give is for the Bloomberg Harvard City Leadership Initiative. Our team actually briefed the mayor on our progress earlier last month, but I've been really proud to be part of a team here in High Point that includes about a dozen of High Point staff that have come together and over the past 7 months have participated in dozens of classes and ideation sessions, interviews, research sessions, various things like that. They've dedicated a lot of time and effort towards really connecting with each other and focusing on the mayor's aim of expanding year-round economic opportunities by really highlighting furniture and design here in High Point. And we had really fantastic opportunities to hear across departments what their different perspectives are, and also to hear directly from the community, from folks both in design and not, about what they would like to see and what would be best for them. And so pictured here is our managing director, Mr. Jaron Hollis, introducing one of those ideas to a group last month as we began to hear their ideas for what they would like to see the city pick up. And this last list is, I said if I went into everything that I was really excited to work on, we'd be here all day. So I've summarized it. I wish I had the chart Jeremy had. If I could show you all the interconnected arrows, I would. But these are just some of the things that I've been able to lend a hand on in my time. Some of these are meetings I sat in on. Some of them are things that I touched maybe for a day or two, and some of them were months-long projects. They differ in scope, in my involvement. They range from exploratory to complete to in progress. And really, I just wanted to highlight that when I started on August 1st, if you had asked me about any of these, I could have given you a guess as to what they were, but I really couldn't have told you what they were, what went into making everything operate the way it operates. And I can tell you that now, if you ask me about any of these, I would be more than happy to sit down with you and tell you all about the things that I've learned. And I want to thank everyone also and really express my appreciation. Everyone here has been fantastic in welcoming me into their meetings, their committees, their offices, their projects, and allowing me to really get a hands-on experience or be a fly on the wall for the various goings-on in local government. And so I count myself very fortunate to do that alongside such a great team here in High Point. And just to give a little snapshot of some of the things that I've had the fortune to experience. So with that being said, if you have any questions about those things, I'd be more than happy to answer them. But that's all I have for you here today.
Carla, thank you so much. Any questions for Carla? Comments?
No, I just wanted to say, Carla, I enjoyed getting to know you a little bit better when you got to travel with us to Tampa, and I really appreciate all of the work that you've put forth for High Point, and it's certainly been a pleasure having you, and I don't know, maybe we'll see you in the future here somewhere.
I'm excited to have been a part of High Point's progress so far, and I'm definitely excited to see where it goes and to be a part of that moving forward, but thank you.
Well, you've been an excellent addition to the team and provided a great deal of value in your time here. So we're greatly appreciated for all the things that you've done in your fellowship.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Excellent. All right, if there are no other questions for Carla, then we'll move on to item 2025-209. We'll have an update on the City of High Point store, yay. And Managing Director Jerron Hollis will be presenting.
Mr. Chair, members of council, I wanted to give you a brief update of kind of where we are, riding the wave of the branding initiative, all the energy that it's generated, whether you're looking on city assets, buildings, out in the built environment, merchandise. The visual identity of our new logo is out in the community, and the community likes it. We have had lots of interest from residents in how they can purchase city-branded items. Noel Miller, one of our communication specialists, has, so you look at that HDOT, that is the secondary mark, as opposed to what you see staff wearing, the city logo. So city logo, official city equipment, city staff designates us as city staff members. What we're talking about more is that secondary mark, the HDOT, and people have really taken to that. So currently, we have a number of vendors that we use to get our hands on gear for internal and external use. We're looking at a pilot program that will allow us to take advantage of the desire for people to purchase those items with the secondary mark in a way that makes sense for us with managing, individual online orders in a platform. So we are in the process now of looking at a third-party vendor that will help us manage the interest, the expectations, and the demand for that gear. We're working with our finance department, also working with our legal department to make sure we have everything in line. So at this point, we're looking at a third quarter of this year launch for the store, and we're finalizing the vendor selection and the item offerings for the community. So I wanted to share this as an informational item. As we have more to share, we will, but I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have, but that's what we wanted to cover in this brief presentation.
Any questions for Jerron?
So the net proceeds from some of this is successful. Is there any thoughts to what to do about the net proceeds?
Well, one of the things that we're talking about with the vendor is what's the best way to handle, because we'll have inventory, we'll have purchases. What's the best way to do that? We haven't finalized on what that would look like. There are a number of models out there, but we want to make sure that we do it in a way that finds a balance of providing the community what they need and is as easy a lift as possible for city staff and is also economical. So that's an item of discussion, but we haven't finalized what that would look like yet. But I appreciate the question.
Okay.
Jerron, have we determined whether this will be a complete online service or will we have physical locations?
Right now, the focus is on an online platform. We always have flexibility, but that's why we're doing it sort of as a pilot to see what the interest is and where how we can maximize and what people want. But the current pilot program is looking at an online platform to start with.
And you said third quarter, so we're thinking October,
Just in time for Christmas, right?
just in time?
Yes.
Okay. All right, fantastic. I'm sorry, go
You
ahead.
can get, when you're around town and stuff, check with some local vendors
Yeah.
and see if they'll hang a rack or whatever, certain thing. If you go to Savannah or if you go to Myrtle Beach or, wherever, sometimes purchases are spontaneous. But it could be a consideration. Church Street, for example.
Sure.
Well, and
Thank
I
you.
noticed at PTI, all they offer is Greensboro stuff, so I feel like that's a missed opportunity if we don't get into that store there.
Thank you.
Well, I think it speaks to the success of the brand that we have actual demand from our constituents and our citizens that they want to represent the city in the things that they wear. I don't think that's something that you see every day when folks walking around asking for merchandise that that represents the city. And I think it speaks to the success of the brand, but also I think it speaks to the direction that the city is moving in to make everything and everyone feel welcome and included in the movement of the city. So I'm excited about it. I think this is a really great development. I think this just speaks more to us bringing the city together and showing the heart of High Point. So really excited about that. Any other questions for Jerron on the store? If not, that was the final item on our agenda. And if there's nothing further to come before the Tech Committee, we are adjourned.